Probably going to maybe get into fishing this weekend. In 6th!
I know.
It's incredible.
I think we're going to batter them. It's not until now. What is Cristiano Ronaldo doing back at Man United? Like, how has this been allowed to happen?
We don't know that.
Well, if he doesn't, then he's an idiot.
Hello guys and welcome to the next episode of the Sportsman Untitled, and just ahead of Christmas we've got a Christmas cracker for you this week as Liverpool take on Manchester United on Super Sunday. We've got two amazing guests as well for you this week. We've got Steve from Redmen TV. How are you getting on?
I'm fantastic. I can't wait for this.
And a slightly different mood, I think, across the other side of the table. StatmanDave.
Yeah, it's gonna be great. Can't wait for this weekend. I'm probably gonna maybe get into fishing this weekend.
Yeah,
fishing, F1, something else.
Just anything that's not on TV.
Anything else that's not on TV.
Yeah, it might be the best plan. I think, as I say, two very different moods here from both of you. But do Liverpool, who are top of the league at the moment, do they feel like the best team in the league to you?
Probably not, but I think that's a good thing. You know, Liverpool always finish seasons strong, and when we've had title races before, we need that gap. Because Manchester City is exactly the same; they tend to finish strong as well. So I think the little gap between us is what we need to get, and obviously going into the weekend, we got that. Obviously, City get their winner in the end against Luton, but even that game was a bit like on the edge. So I don't think we are the best. I actually think Aston Villa are probably playing the best football in the league at the moment. But the fact that we're top, and I'd say probably 70 to 80%, I don't think we're quite there, because in years gone by, to keep pace with Man City or to even cling to their coattails, we've had to be 100% every single game, and that just knackers you out. That's just unsustainable. In the end, we fell short a couple of times, barely. So I think if we can, if we're top of the table, 4 points clear of City ahead of Arsenal, and we're probably at 75%, it's probably a good thing. There's still a few obvious concerns, but there's nothing that's too dramatic. So the table suggests we are. I think performances-wise, probably not, but then what I would say is that mentality-wise, we probably are as well. I think we are the mentally strongest team at this moment in time.
Your views on Liverpool?
Yeah, I think they've grown, they've evolved, but I still think there's a few things that they could change potentially and sort out and deal with. I think the performances of late have been really good. A lot of last minute winners or goals after the 90th minute, which is a slight concern. Jurgen Klopp's team, Jurgen Klopp's Liverpool, scored more goals after the 90th minute than Sir Alex Ferguson's team, which is a stat that was going around this week. But I do think there's still holes. How do you get the best out of Trent? It's still a question. It's still an open question, because we know how good he is on the ball, but from a defensive perspective, it still catches Liverpool out. Either the centre-back has to move over, and Canate does that really well, but can he stay fit? Joel Matip's now injured. How do you find that balance in that Liverpool backline with Trent in that position is a question that I'd still have. Saying that, you could still say Liverpool's left-hand side's not really firing, so there's still more to come there. Salah's obviously been great this season. Darwin Núñez just keeps missing chances when he's playing. So there's still levels that I think Liverpool can go up. And, I would agree that Aston Villa are probably the best team off the ball in possession at the moment. That's right now. Have they peaked too early for a real title challenge? Maybe. Liverpool and City will continue to grow, and I feel they will change. I think Guardiola's going to change things. Arteta's already trying different things that he did last season. And I think that's the interesting side about the Premier League right now. There's not a massive favourite. Saying that, obviously, City have the quality. They really do, and they're not playing anywhere near the level that they previously played even this year. Yeah. So I don't know, Liverpool look good, they really do, but I still think there's slight things that they could improve and tweak. And
the issue we have sometimes as well, and we tend to do this in December, and sometimes it muddies our judgment, but Liverpool tend to get through December, and they actually do quite well, but it's very rare they play well. Because Jurgen, they make so many changes, 5 or 6 changes every single game, and he always talks about rhythm, and eventually what usually happens is we get to spring, and then Liverpool find that rhythm, and it's the same team, and they just play and play and play. At the moment, he is definitely saving legs for what is hopefully going to be. He doesn't want to run out of steam. We saw Arsenal run out of steam last year. They went to the well too often, and in the end, they didn't. They stumbled at the start line. Really, they got to the title race point and then just couldn't go again. It does feel like Jurgen is trying to, keep his squad together. You mentioned like Alexander-Arnold. He can't play every single game. He's having to drop him in and out. So we've seen Joe Gomez play games. We've seen the bits and bobs changing wise, and I do think he is. And he kind of said this the other day. At the moment, it's just about results. I think if Liverpool are flying now, playing their absolute best football, we probably wouldn't be that far ahead in the league anyway. The table would look very similar, and I would be a little bit concerned, like the peaking too early thing. So I'm pretty calm with it so far, but there are everyone's imperfect at the moment. You know, it feels like you have to be perfect to win the Premier League, or you have had to be perfect for 5 years now. Basically, since Guardiola's second season, you've had to be, whoever's won the league has been the perfect team pretty much. It doesn't feel like that's the case. I think they're all flawed at the moment, and I think that suits us. The longer Arsenal, Aston Villa are in this race as well with us, I think that's a good thing. But there's levels for us to go, which again, you can look at it both ways, can't you? Is that a good thing? It's a bad thing. I'm choosing to look at it as good. If we were fourth in the table, fifth in the table, I'd be thinking, it's all going wrong. But these last minute winners do help lift the move for sure.
I think one of the big things is for Liverpool is buying a 6 in January. I think Endo's not the right player for Liverpool in that position. I think he's quite poor at receiving back to goal. We saw him nearly get caught out of the weekend. That was something that was consistent when he played for Stuttgart in the Bundesliga. He just gets caught. That's the problem. He's a player that's got strengths, but he's not a holding midfielder, to say the least. I think when McAllister plays, again, brilliant ball player, probably could have used him at the weekend, and again, probably rotated from a fitness and injury perspective. He's not going to kill counter-attacks. You're still lacking that play. An Andre for Fluminense would solve Liverpool's team, and they would have the best squad to win the league. I think that's the big thing Liverpool have got. We saw it at the weekend. Curtis Jones impacts off the bench, got an assist. Harvey Elliott obviously scored the winner. 2 players that were brought on the 74th minute. Harvey Elliott's a really interesting one because we know that he's got the quality, and I think we forget that he's just 20. He's 20 years old, and he has massive. We saw how good he can be in that little moment, that inside channel. The strike was incredible. Like, he's got real quality. He's part of this like Liverpool 2.0 side in terms of playing central midfield. But I do think that 6th position is still questionable. Even what Trent played there in the second half, didn't he, against Palace, where he actually played in defensive midfield. And I think in the long term, Liverpool buying a 6 or buying a right back is going to be the difference between them being title challengers to title winners. And I think it's very, very close. That's it.
I've been very impressed with Liverpool given the summer transformation they had in their midfield. But I think the most refreshing thing is that so many teams are in the Premier League title race. And like you say, it's imperfect at the moment for a lot of teams. But that makes the league so much more interesting to watch.
Absolutely.
We'll have a quick conversation about Man United, I think. Might as well talk about them. Down in 6th at the minute, it feels like the world is ending.
In 6th?
I know.
It's incredible.
That's what I mean. Like, it feels like the world's ending after the 3-0 loss to Bournemouth. Could have been more.
It wasn't a surprise, to be honest. I think Bournemouth are massively underrated at the moment. You look at their underlying statistics, they're second behind Arsenal in terms of expected goals conceded in the last 6 game weeks. They've really improved. They are a good pressing side now, and it's taken a bit of time. You're looking at Christie in midfield with Lewis Cook. That partnership's only been there for a few games, and it looks really good. Legs, combativeness. Lewis Cook was sublime against United. The way that he was jumping, nicking the ball in the right areas, obviously got the assist for the first goal. Great. Bournemouth are a really good side. But Manchester United should be good enough to play through that with what they've spent, with what they do, with the manager that they have, and they're not. And that's the concern. The amount of times that United lost it playing, with a midfielder back to goal, or Scott McTominay, or whoever it was, Bruno Fernandes losing possession. It's just a constant theme. And then United are so poor in their reaction. They don't defend well. And it's this sort of rotation of the same issues, right? And Liverpool will do exactly the same thing this weekend. Liverpool will press high. Liverpool will probably catch United out. And it's a concern because we've not got to a point where we have a style. And when you look at Villa, Spurs, the two best examples at the moment, you know what Spurs are going to do? The 2 fullbacks are going to move into the inside channels. They're going to dominate the ball. They're going to be super aggressive. They're going to create lots of chances with overlaps, with underlaps. You know what they're going to do. You know how they play out. United, you still don't know.
Does this mean we're approaching the end of the road for Ten Hag? We're recording this before the Bayern Munich game, so we don't know how that one pans out. But we're coming into a very tough run of fixtures.
It's a tough run of fixtures. Got to play Aston Villa very soon as well. The weird thing with this Man United team is you just don't know what's going to happen. They're consistently inconsistent. Sometimes they turn up, sometimes they don't. And that's like the danger of this team, is that the performance levels were nowhere near good enough for a Man United team against Bournemouth. They just weren't. Yet Bayern Munich, you could see something there. Bayern Munich lost 5-1 at the weekend. Again, crazy swing in their performance levels. Do I think we'd beat Bayern Munich? Probably not. Does that mean the end for Ten Hag? The question is, who do you bring in? What do you do? Who's going to? Nobody can come in and fix it in the current environment, and that's the thing.
It's also, listen, I'm not sure if he's a great manager or not, but it's the same players who keep getting every manager sacked. And at some point, that's probably what needs to change, rather than the manager himself. What I would say, I don't think he's done himself any favours with the signings that he's made, because a lot of them you can tell are his signings. They're the Ajax contingent, and you look at everyone he signed. Martinez looks like a good signing, but some of the other ones are poor signings. So he hasn't done himself no favours there. But this team of players with right the way through the spine are the same players who got Mourinho sacked, and the same players who got a lot of them were there for when Solskjaer got sacked, and then a lot of them are there for him now. And it just feels like that's the constant. The constant rather, that it feels like, you know, it's the same guy over and over again. So is someone else going to come in and automatically just turn those guys from this to this? Because that should be on themselves. You know, that's their job as players. So it's, I understand. I agree. I watch Man United and I don't know what the plan is, and they look like a team who don't react well to adversity. If United go in front of a game, or I don't know, it's weird. If there's before the game, if there's a couple of questions like we saw the leaks and stuff, and then they go and put on a real good performance. But they go one down to Bournemouth after 5 minutes and there's nothing.
But I think the performance against Chelsea was so open,
yeah,
and the performance against Galatasaray was so open.
Yeah.
The midfield balance is so poor at the moment. The separation between the defence and midfield is so big. Yeah. You're basically playing two number 10s in a DM, and you're expecting that DM to do everything. Kobe Mainoo's come in and played, brilliantly against Everton. You'd say he was a bit exposed against Galatasaray when he was on the pitch. Then you're looking at Amrabat. I think Amrabat's a good player. I think he's a really good player. He played quite well this weekend, in terms of the control, the passing. The stats were great, 93% pass accuracy, 10 out of 10 long passes, switching the play and all sorts. But it's an impossible job to play as a six for United at the moment, because you've got so much to do in the transition. You've got so much ground to cover, and that is on Ten Hag.
Yeah.
Ten Hag could play Kobe Mainoo and Amrabat, and that is a midfield that can play. If you're playing a team like it's Bournemouth that you know it's going to press, if you beat that first sort of 2-3 lines of pressure, you're at the back four. And I think that is the concern with Ten Hag, is he's not doing things that he could do. And that's where we're at. And the recruitment has been atrocious, but it's been atrocious for years. You know, how United have spent all that money on Varane, Casemiro, and it's bad, and that's something that needs to get fixed. And that's not the players, that's the backroom stuff.
I think as well, sometimes, like as a manager, not self-preservation is probably the wrong word, but I think if he hadn't spent so much money on average players, you might be thinking, well, it's not all his fault. Like, some of it is, like, he bought this goalkeeper and I'm still not quite sure about him. I think he's okay. Yeah. I think there's issues there. I definitely think, like, say, he's the one who went and bought Anthony, like you said. Yeah. He decided that Casemiro and I think we saw at the end of last season there was a little bit of issues with Casemiro, and I don't know, it might not be him.
The Casemiro was not his side.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. There's people above him as well, yeah.
And I think that is a massive problem when you're buying a six for a team that wants to play football. Casemiro's just never been that guy. He's a destroyer. He's had Toni Kroos and Luka Modric dropping back and receiving in the half spaces for like years and years and years. So to have that as one of your massive part of the team, and look, Casemiro was unplayable for 3 or 4 months last season.
He was scoring
brilliant.
Big goals.
Scoring goals, his ability to win tackles was incredible. But there was always that problem that he was getting overplayed because we had 1-6. And that's, you've got to look at the squad and be like, why isn't there another player there? Like Kobe Mainoo this summer has massively bulked out, and that was something he needed to do to play in the Premier League, and he's grown, and it's incredible. It doesn't feel like that was the plan. No. It doesn't feel like they're like, yeah, we've got Kobe Mainoo coming through, great, so we don't need to buy number 6. It's more like, we just haven't bought enough defensive midfielders. And you look at the top teams and all the money they've spent recently. Liverpool have spent money on defensive midfielders, Arsenal with Declan Rice, Chelsea with Enzo Fernandez and Caicedo, over 200 odd million. Like, United have bought a player that's coming to the end of his career. Every other team's buying players that are on the up. There's a real discrepancy between what they're doing, and you can see it. It's another game where you go, that's another game where you just need another defensive midfielder in the Bournemouth game.
I think Ten Hag also has to take responsibility for a bit of an elephant in the room that we'll come to now, which is the 7-0 last season at Anfield. Dave, any fear of a repeat here?
Yeah.
What is the if United lose 6-7-0 again? Yeah. What's the fallout?
Well, I don't think Ten Hag can. I don't think he'll be employed anymore. I think that's the thing. I think they're already looking at the future, and I think they have to. And I think that's the thing. And it's it's really tough to say because Ten Hag is a good manager. No, he's a good coach. He's a good manager. Is he good at recruitment? Probably not. Can he build a team that plays great football? Yeah, he did it with Ajax twice. We can't deny that. They got to the Champions League semi-final. the other team went out to a Darwin Núñez corner, but they probably would have faced Liverpool in the final. That Ajax team, his second team with Gravenberch and Berghaus and the rest of them, they're a brilliant team. We know he can do that. He's not been given the tools to do that, but I also agree that he's had to play players to bail him out. He's had to play your game or match winners like Scott McTominay scoring goals, Marcus Rashford scoring goals, Bruno Fernandes scoring goals, but that doesn't build a good system and a good standpoint and philosophy. And I think the issue that you have now is that this Liverpool game, United are going to have to revert back to that. But Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was 5 times the manager in terms of pragmatism there at Ten Hag is, finding a way of beating Liverpool. We had a really good record. Played 5 at the back at times. It was pretty disgusting. Mm-hmm. But Rashford 1v1 with Trent or the outside centre-back was a way we play. And we'd score goals. Dan James was great in those games. It doesn't feel like Ten Hag is the same. It feels like he's really rigid in some of his approaches, really pragmatic in other approaches, but not the way that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer built the counter-attacking teams and systems that would cause Liverpool issues, and I think that is the concern.
I also thought, and I might be wrong, but again, outside looking in kind of thing, is that we're hearing these leaks again of dressing room unrest and all that, and I know Man United, they haven't taken too kindly to it, whatever, but I didn't really... We kind of got that with Solskjaer near the end, but it always looked like, you mentioned like Rashford, for example, or like a part of a manager's job is to get these guys motivated and get, like, it does feel like the mood around the Man United players, I reference, like, they don't respond well to adversity. There were times when Man United under Solskjaer looked, I agree, he was flawed, but they're up against it in Paris and they find a way. They collapsed a little bit against Liverpool at times over a few managers, but there was also other games where they did just find a way.
Man City games,
absolutely. Whereas I think when United go ahead with Ten Hag sometimes, I think they look like they've got that, but they react so poorly to adversity. And listen, Liverpool are going to score at the weekend. There's just no doubt about it. At some point in that game, Liverpool are going to score a goal. That's the worry if I was a United fan going, well, how do we react to that goal? Do we find a way to win, or do we not? And at the moment, and that's one of those intangible things that it's hard to measure, isn't it, for all of us? Like you can't. There's no stats on that really.
So
but there's something there.
One that was that I looked at about 2 or 3 weeks ago was it was 6 times this season that United have conceded 1 goal, and then within 5 minutes they've conceded, or within 5 to 10 minutes they've conceded another goal, and that's kind of backs up, right? Yeah. That they haven't got that stability, and it does come from
stay in the game.
It comes from the characters. Like you've built this squad. Like personality is a massive thing in football. Like when I think about recruitment versus like now versus like 5 years ago, I think the biggest thing that I've taken into consideration is like the psychological side of things. How do they deal? How do they learn? Because I think it's so important, and that's something that it doesn't feel like United have done proper analysis on these players, because they seem to sign a similar player that doesn't look like they understand certain concepts, and they haven't understood for the whole time of their career. They struggle when the pressure's up. Like, you can't spend 50, 60, 70 million pounds on a player that can't handle pressure.
I think with the Liverpool game at Anfield, it's almost like a microscope of how they handle pressure. It's the toughest fixture probably that a Man United player is going to get in the Premier League. And you were doing some research before about Man United's goal scoring, weren't you?
Well, they've scored 1 goal at Anfield since 2018. Jesse Lingard scored. It was the 3-1 game. It was Mourinho's last game in charge. Since then, they haven't been able to do anything. And I referenced back. It's funny, before we spoke off air, and apologies if I'm ruining things here, but like talent-wise, there are a couple of Man United players who would maybe get in the Liverpool team if you were doing like a combined thing or whatever. Look, but mentality-wise, no chance. Not a chance. There is not a chance Bruno Fernandes will be in the Liverpool team. There's just not a chance. He just wouldn't be in it.
No Man United win at Anfield since 2016.
I think he's a brilliant player, but I've just watched him get himself booked on purpose, and I'm laughing that he didn't. He got himself booked, and now he can't play the next game at Anfield. I watched Stefan Bajcetic skip past him in that 7-0, and he just walked off. And I do believe that I think you're absolutely spot on. Liverpool have this rule with signings, and our signings that don't always work. For the most part, Jurgen's signings have been fantastic. You look at the team, and he signed this team at the top of the league, all of them except one. I think Joe Gomez is the only one who he didn't sign or brought through the system. That meant that constance, the character of the man and the psychology of them is Liverpool call it, sorry, I'm allowed to say, the no dickheads policy. Like that's what it is. Like, we just don't sign. It just doesn't happen.
But it seems that Man United only signed.
But saying that, Bruno Fernandes would be a perfect Jurgen Klopp player.
Mate,
I fully stand on that. If you'd signed him from Sporting Lisbon, when we signed him, he would have been a perfect. I think you would have got closer to where you are right now then, because you would have had a player that plays central midfield that would have had to play high. So you would have had to think about it differently. You look at the energy that Bruno's got, you look at the commitment that he's got everything that a Jurgen Klopp player would have. You know, how people view him on the pitch is their own independent point of view. From my perspective, meeting him and chatting to him, seems like a great guy.
Yeah.
Really
I
does.
think he's a top player.
I think with Bruno, for example, I think he's been really hampered by Manchester United.
Maybe, yeah.
The managers, the signings. He is a world-class player.
Yeah.
On his day, he's absolutely brilliant.
I agree.
But there is parts of his game he needs to improve. He's not had the coaching. It's genuinely think you watch Bruno Fernandes, one of the games this season, just receiving the wrong way, not in the right spaces, like issues that a Klopp or Guardiola would just deal with straight away, and you'd have a player that would be elevated. The passing side of things, doesn't take care in his short passing in his own half, doesn't take care in certain moments. That's something that a Guardiola would deal with. Kevin De Bruyne came to the Premier League as a really raw player, proper raw player. We see him now and he's unbelievable. Similar thing would happen with Bruno Fernandes. Yeah. And I feel like he takes a lot of flack because he is the Man United captain. He's the guy that what you're going to get with him is that where recently with the midfield being so open, how many times have you seen him like run 60 yards and have to make a challenge? The goal that Galatasaray scored, the Hakim Ziyech goal, Bruno's tracked like 80 yards because our shape's so bad. That doesn't happen with Liverpool. That doesn't happen with Guardiola.
Yeah, it might be a chicken and egg thing, but I'll be honest. I'm not a United fan. You are. You can tell me. I found it. He got himself booked, and he's not an idiot. He knew the other day, if I get booked, I can't play against Liverpool. He must. We
don't know that. We can't say that's fact.
Of course. Well, if he doesn't, then he's an idiot. Because if you don't know you're one yellow card away from a suspension, then that's on you.
I don't think players go into games thinking like that. I don't think they can because you have to. You know, for example, let's say you're winning a game 1-0 and there's a counter attack and you take a booking and take a break. That's actually that would be good captaincy. I think getting yourself booked for moaning at a ref in the 85th minute of a 3-0. I completely get that. I don't think he'd go in and fully play the game being like, I
agree. Playing the game,
he's just got to play. I understand that it opens up a different question for Manchester United. But then again, like you flip back to like when United looked really good, they played Hannibal Mejbri as a 10.
Yeah.
And he's another player that scored a fantastic goal off the bench against Brighton, a brilliant goal. Looked really good in his aggression and his pressing, and then he's not played.
I was going to say, jumping in before this Liverpool game, playing devil's advocate, could Bruno's absence be a good thing for Man United?
Might be.
Given what we saw at Anfield last time?
It could be balance-wise, because it would... sometimes it's hard, I think, as a manager to leave certain players out. You'd never leave Bruno Fernandes out, of course you wouldn't. But for the good of the team, if he goes, right, we're going to sit Amrabat in with Man Utd or something and goes, we'll, like Dave said before, protect those half spaces better because Liverpool will kill you in those half spaces. They really will. If you allow Liverpool in between your defence and your midfield, we've got 5 or 6 players who'll Szoboszlai, Gravenberch, Jones, Elliott, they'll destroy you in there. Cody Gakpo dropping in because I think he'll play. But so it might do them a favour in terms of it. Tactically, it goes, well, do I really want to play with 2 number 10s at Anfield? Probably not. Well, who was I going to leave out? I couldn't leave Bruno out. What was I going to do? Now he might just go, like they said before, start Amrabat and start someone next to him rather than this big massive space. In terms of a tactical thing, it probably will. It dramatically reduces Man United's chances of scoring a goal because he is the goal threat. He really, I think, Dave's right, he's fabulous. Like he's the one who you can pick through Liverpool. He absolutely could. His set pieces are brilliant. He's got everything going for him. So I think defensively they might be okay. It depends how he reacts. If he just goes, Christian Eriksen starts instead of him, then that's a disaster waiting to happen for Manchester United. But if it allows him to do a couple of... Liverpool have figured this out a couple of times. Under Jurgen Klopp, they've kind of, through necessity, had to do something and it worked. So, oh, wow, okay, so Liverpool were getting battered every game. And then they started half-time against Arsenal, maybe before at home, they were getting beat 2-0, I think, by Arsenal. And he went, right, this isn't working. Trent, start drifting in midfield. And since that moment then, Liverpool have been the best team in terms of points in the country. Like, no one's won more points than us. So sometimes, like, these things going against you can almost work out the positive. I think Conte's Chelsea, when they were getting battered and they went 5 at the back and then just went and won the league. Yeah. So there might be something in it. Like that I mean, it is grass my straws a little bit, but there might be something in it where it might make him, like Dave said, he's been so reluctant to change. Now he has to change. He hasn't got his best player and he hasn't got his captain. He's going to have to react to that. So they might spend from, obviously after the Bayern game, they'll get 4 days to prepare for Liverpool. They might be able to go, actually, why don't we try this? And it might work, you never know, because definition of insanity and all. If he comes and does what he did last year, they're going to get beat again. So it might allow him to make that change.
That's what I feel the problem will be. He'll do this. And again, like you play this Liverpool team, you play City, you play Arsenal at the moment. Like the teams that do well are teams that play 5 at the back. They just are. You deal with them, the movement. Look at Aston Villa at the weekend versus Arsenal. They dropped into 5 at times.
Palace did it to us.
Kamara dropped and covered Havertz's forward motion. It's the same thing with Liverpool. It's the same setup. Palace did it to you. They did it quite well. If United play 5, then you 5-4-1 and you attack, you break down the flanks, you sit deep, combative, you wait for the right moment. That's a better position to be in than having Bruno Fernandes in a 4-2-3-1 as a 10. It's just whether he's going to do that is the question, and it kind of needs to. Otherwise, it will be a beating. And I think that's the side of it. You can't look past it. And the other side, if you play 5 at the back, the big thing is you need to attack with 6 players. You've got less players to sit in your rest defence or on the counter. There's space. There really is space. I think that's got to be the mentality. And it's what's so frustrating is that it's 10 years since Ferguson has been at United, and we're still in a position where we can't try and outplay a City or a Liverpool. We're just not there.
It's 10 years, I think a couple of days ago, it was 10 years since Moyes said that Man United are struggling in many areas.
Chancing great. But it's the same thing. And that, when you look at the spend and so forth, it's embarrassing. It really is. It
is a bit strange that we're sitting here. And again, people of a certain age, so if you're in your 20s now, this is the norm. But even suggesting that Liverpool, that Man United are going to go to Anfield and not try and win in their way of playing football. Ferguson would always do 1 or 2 things. He'd mark Steven Gerrard with Park or something. He'd do something, but they would come to win. And you're right. There's no way Liverpool and Man United can both play at their best and Man United win. No. Whereas if both teams played their 10 out of 10 game, Liverpool would win. Same against City for United. That is so rare because that was just not the case. No. If Man United turned up to Anfield and played 8 out of 10, they'd beat us. It would often be a scrappy game, but they'd find
John O'Shea would score from the corner.
They'd just find a way, or they would just find a way to do it. Wayne Rooney had scored, whatever. They'd find a way to win. What's interesting recently, and especially away from home for Manchester United, is that it's not a shock when they get beat 5. I wasn't shocked that Bournemouth beat them again at the weekend. I haven't been shocked at many of the results. The most shocking result was how well they dealt with Everton. That was the most shocking result for me, because I thought that you're going into a cauldron, and Man United just wiped the floor with Everton.
Did that just come from that Garnacho goal though?
That's what I'm saying. And that was kind of where I'm at, is that Man United, and I think Dave kind of hints at this before, I might be wrong if I was listening to you, but they rely on moments of genius, and that isn't really a game plan.
It's not sustainable.
That's just, I remember Liverpool doing this a few years ago. We'd rely on Steven Gerrard to just bail us out, and we'd be constantly battling for 4th place, but he would find a way, or Fernando, or someone would find a way to do something. Your game plan can't be to just rely on magic moments. Now, you'll need magic moments to get you over the line in certain games. You'll need someone to do something absolutely spectacular, like Harvey Elliott did the other day for us. But your plan, that can't be your game plan. You've got to fall back on that. Having someone who can score wonderful goals is fantastic, but I don't know, it's a bit like putting the curtains up when the house is falling down. You know what I mean? Like get the house built first, and then those finishing touches will take you from battling for 4th to winning titles. But at the minute, Man United need those moments just to keep, to tread in water. But they've needed overhead kicks and worldy goals and just to be 6th.
Yeah,
that's what it's. So it doesn't feel sustainable. You're right, and I don't know that. The question earlier was, did they change the manager? What's that? Who's coming in to fix this? This needs, the new ownership should be announced soon, and then it needs to be like a structural thing where get rid of them. I saw there's 5 or 6 players who've been there too long. They've got to go. They've got the scars. Even if they might be good players, they're just scarred. And Liverpool have had this. Jurgen walked in, and we had some good players, and he was like, Skrtel, you're a good defender, but you've got to go because you are scarred by that. You're done. Alberto Moreno, you're a good left back. He went on one of Europa League, but you've got to go. Lucas Leiva stayed a little bit, but you've got to go because you're carrying that baggage of all that. Jurgen used to call it the backpack. You're carrying that backpack of what's gone on. And Man United, they're still trotting out the same players who have been through all this stuff. And I think mentally that must be quite difficult for them, because it must be a case of, here's adversity, here we go again. That meme, here we go again. That's what it feels like. So if I was them, and listen, I think you stick with him, but there's got to be change of the squad. Like, allow him to, let him go, get rid of him, try. I know he tried to get rid of Harry Maguire, and he tried to get rid of maybe Scott McTominay, which might have killed him. Imagine without him, his goals this season.
So in a very short sentence, Dave, how do United escape this purgatory they find themselves in?
I think they've got to move the squad, and I think what Steve was saying is massively important. There's players there that aren't the right players for the football that you want to play. You know, top level European football, you need like mobile centre backs that are agile, that are very good on the ball, that can play forward. You need full backs that create a lot of chances, that get into the final third, that dominate. Defensive midfielders that are superb on the ball. You need attacker midfielders that retain possession as well as creating. Your wingers need to make things happen. Your striker needs to score goals. So when you look at that, you know, the United squad and how do you deal with it, you have to have a complete reset. And that has to come with Ineos coming in. It has to come with whichever director of football comes in has to take the responsibility for that. It's not that difficult, I don't think, but you just have to change it. You have to get rid of 13 players. I think I had it in the summer. You have to do that. And it's not because these are bad people or they're bad players. It's just that they're not right for United or where United want to be. You know, managers that have been spoke about, like Graham Potter, for example. Same thing, ball playing manager, presses, has to play a high line. Looked at the offside stats today, because I was looking at Aston Villa, caught their opponents offside 75 times, best in Europe. Tottenham very high as well, actually, which I thought was quite good. They were second in the Premier League. United, I think they've caught their opponents offside like 18 times in 16 games. Like, so that's such a high. You can't press high if you don't have a high line. Liverpool, you know, the big thing with Jurgen Klopp is when you Pep Linders' book, he talks about Liverpool play well when they play high, and that's a default thing. If United can't do that with the bodies they've got, no disrespect to the players, but if, for example, Harry Maguire is probably suited playing low, there's probably other defenders there that are suited playing. You have to move on from that. So if Potter comes in, that's the same. If Kieran McKenna were to come in, that'd be the same. If you brought in, you know, Julian Nagelsmann from Germany, which I think would be a great shout because he is a coach. He's an attacking manager. There's so many principles that United still haven't got, from pressing to positional play to, you know, asymmetric setups. Nagelsmann has all those things, but he needs a squad of young players to, you know, in a sense, there's players like Rafael Varane that you're never going to be able to get him to play high. You're never going to be able to be a ball-dominant side because he's just not. That's never been his game. So are we suggesting that this season's already a bit of a write-off and there'll be a reset in the summer, maybe with, you know, Ratcliffe's money in?
The issue with Man United on that one is that they can't. It's almost like they're not allowed to do that.
No.
Because they're Manchester United. No one's going to allow them a year of 12th. Because it's what I agree with Dave, is what it is. They've got Frankenstein's squad at the moment. They've got Van Gaal, Mourinho, Solskjaer, Ten Hag squad. And it's a combination of 4 different styles of play. And they're all like, so Ten Hag, and this is what I mentioned before, like, I think he's a good coach. I've seen enough from Ajax that I think he could be. I don't know if he's a great man manager. That's something we can't really judge. But he can't play the football he wants to play with this team. He's tried to, like, Martinez would have allowed him to play a little bit higher. But then who's next to him? Well, it's Rafa Varane or it's Harry Maguire or it's Lindelof. They can't.
Same problem.
Yeah, so they need that. And this is what we spoke before about Ten Hag in trouble. I would go the opposite way. I think you'd have to back. You might as well back somebody. One of these managers just needs to be back to do the reset and just say, right, you've got carte blanche to do whatever you want, sell whoever you want. Here's your budget. Raise whatever money you want on the back of that, and then come again. And then it might allow him to go, right, well, I'm happy with Martinez and I'm happy with Fernandes and I'm happy with Højlund, but I might want to get rid of 5 others or 10 or whoever, and then let him build his squad. And then if that fails, that's on him. That's his fault. Then, but at the moment,
I think it's got to be different to that. I think giving the manager the keys to make the decisions has been a big problem.
Yeah. Put a director above his head.
So I think it has to be a director there that is there for a longer period of time that can fully grow it through. You look at, you know, Liverpool have gone a little bit away from that, and it's working at the moment with Jurgen Klopp. You could question the Endo signing massively, but if they're one that play in the market, cool. But you look at Villa, Monchi's come in, signings, long-term vision, Edu at Arsenal. Bergenstein at City. They're the people that keep the flow.
Yeah.
And I think that's the issue with United is if we go again and go, this manager gets rid of him, gets rid of that. For example, if United were to change again and go for a different style of football again, you've got players there that now don't fit.
Yeah.
So it's got to be a real collective process, and that the problem at United is that the departments are so disconnected that.
Do you see a bit of Liverpool past in Man United present?
100%. Yeah, absolutely. Because
what manager of Liverpool's past would you relate to Ten Hag right now?
It's hard because I think he almost feels like when Kenny Dalglish took over for a little bit, in that it's like 3 or 4 different people's squads, and he's just trying to make the most of it because you're Liverpool and you're not allowed to fail. You have to keep winning. You've got to find a way to win, and that's what I'm saying with Ten Hag. I agree on the director of football. What I would suggest is, I think that you find a director of football who wants to play. Because I think Ajax setup system what Ten Hag played would be a good way to go about it. So
100%.
if you put someone above Ten Hag who knows that, and then allows Ten Hag to build it, and then if it doesn't work, well, you find someone else to replace Ten Hag. With Liverpool, we were a shambles. We were an absolute shambles. The transfers were awful. It's the reason why the Brendan Rodgers era failed as spectacular as it did.
I think the Ten Hag is Rodgers.
You're probably right in terms of
a sense of the Swansea style. They play great football. Going to come in and change things for Liverpool, and he kind of went away from it, didn't he? With the best Liverpool under Rodgers was a bit more like counter-attacking. Maybe
13-14, we were just mental. We were a chaos-creating team who relied on Luis Suarez, Daniel Sturridge, whatever.
It's exactly the same thing, right?
But then he was let down because, well, he wasn't let down. The structure let him down, and then Liverpool implemented the director of football strategy, which Jurgen was totally on board with, and then that worked as well. Jurgen Klopp was overruled on certain things, he wanted certain players and he got not given, but persuaded, almost asked. We wouldn't have had Mo Salah and we wouldn't have had Sadio Mane.
Julian
Brandt. We'd had Brandt and Goetze. And so maybe you may be right. Should Erik Ten Hag have been allowed to spend £80 million or whatever on Anthony? Or should someone have said, whoa.
You can get someone else for that.
Yeah, exactly. It's actually, mate, how about option B? Which is what they were like, well, here's Mo Salah. Okay, so so you're probably right. Actually, Rodgers is probably a better one. Is that there are still moments under Brendan Rodgers. Liverpool very nearly won a league title under Brendan Rodgers, and there was FA Cup semi-finals and stuff, and we've seen that with Ten Hag.
Yeah.
He's done okay at times, but it always felt like it was built on quicksand. But Liverpool, the football club, needed to be restructured. When Kenny walked in, why I referenced Kenny Dalglish was because he was allowed to just go and buy Andy Carroll. He was just, here's your money, you go and pick who you want to buy, and he did. Now someone else bought Luis Suarez for him, and that worked out well. But then Kenny Dalglish, and he chose to buy Stuart Downing, and he chose Charlie Adam. They were his choices, and because there was no one above him telling him no, he was the kid in the candy shop kind of thing. And that's what I'm saying with Ten Hag. He clearly knows football. They clearly have a rough idea of what they want, but also checks and balances.
You can't be everything.
It's his knowledge base. I think his knowledge base is really Eredivisie, amazing, Champions League, amazing. But outside of that, he's got great Premier League knowledge now. So why not recruit within the Premier League and make that the thing? I'm going to sign young English players from the Premier League because he knows, he's seen the players, he can do it. The whole Mason Mount thing is crazy in a sense of, obviously he knows him from the Eredivisie when he was a youth team player, basically. He's on loan at Vitesse Arnhem. Then he's brought him in. It feels like he doesn't really know his skill set, which is really weird to say. For me, Mason Mount is a great player inside right. So when he plays...
That's where if we'd have bought him, that's where he'd be playing for us.
Play him
wanted him as well.
In the position between the winger and the centre forward, that inside right channel, he's very, very good. When you look at Chelsea, the 3 kind of 4-2-1, his link with Reece James was great. Really good as that inside right attacking midfielder. We haven't done that. So
why did you buy him?
Yeah, so when you analyse players, and there's so many players I've looked at have come to me and said, great player, this is what you do with him. Amrabat, he's a half-back, he's a player that has to drop between the centre-backs and then he plays. He did that at the weekend against Bournemouth, but he hasn't really played that role. It feels like certain players haven't really, Rasmus Højlund is a player that feels like he needs another player around. He needs a striker next to him. You're looking at Lisandro Martinez has got a certain skill set, but needs a stopper defender in front, needs like a Edison Alvarez that now plays for West Ham United, basically a centre-half at defensive midfield to deal with all the aerial balls. Great. But we aren't like... There's a real disjoint and disconnect between how we viewed these players, what they're doing, and that's why we see this kind of mishmash of what it is. It's very, very strange. I didn't like Tyrell Malacia, great player in the Eredivisie. I think one of the reasons why he was really good, week in, week out football. He's a player that needs a run of games. He's a very, very good footballer. Believe he's a very good footballer. But he's never really had a consistent run for Man United, where he's played 10, 15 games in a row to get the style. And when he plays when he's in and out the side, he looks dead nervous. So there is that real disconnect between the players that have been brought in. Like Anthony's another prime example, needs somebody inside right, which is why the Mason Mount thing's crazy, because you look at Anthony and the combination play with Berghaus and the interchange and so forth, also needs a target in the penalty area. United didn't have a target last season, didn't have a centre forward. This season, Rasmus Højlund's not really flying, but Anthony's not playing the same stuff that he was playing. He's not cutting in, he's not crossing from the right side. He's not really doing much. And this is why it's all a bit strange in a sense. It feels like we sign players that have strengths. We're not using those strengths. And then now we're going back to the players that score goals. That's it.
I'll bring it back.
That's Man United.
That was good. That was a great summary, I have to say. We'll bring it back round to Liverpool, because I noticed that you've still only lost one game this season. The game at Tottenham, of course, most controversial game we've seen this season. Yep. Has a situation or a scenario crossed your mind that you could go unbeaten for the rest of the year, and that would be the one game that stopped you being the Invincibles?
It's not until now. I haven't thought of that. I don't know. I don't think we're that good. And I think the Premier League's better than that. I think Liverpool got very close to doing it when they won the title. 20 odd games before they went and got beat at Watford. But I think the league's too strong. I think you look at everyone down to Eve. And we'll see what Chrissy Wilder does. But I'm trying to think of a team.
You'd even say like Fulham. Yeah, and they've just got them and scored like more goals in the last two games.
I'm trying to think of a team who you just think that is an easy win away from Homer. And it's hard to think of that.
It was Sheffield United, but now with Chris Wilder,
it was Sheffield United.
Maybe.
Potentially, maybe they've just about started to swing things around. So I think the Premier League's too good for that. You'll slip up somewhere.
Yeah.
Aston Villa are going to win every game at home, maybe. So they're a difficult one. So I think that's too harsh. But what I would say with us, and it goes back, we are extremely hard to beat. So even when we don't play well, more often than not they win, but they'll at least draw. They find the Luton game where we were terrible, and they just find the goal. They just find that goal from somewhere, and at that point, we'll find out what that point means. If Liverpool drop the league by 2 points, we'll all be like, what happened at Luton? Yeah. If they win it by 1 point, you'll be thank God for Luis Diaz at Luton. So it depends, but that's the one thing. That's the main difference, I think, between this year and last year. I think it comes in two parts, really, is that the mentality is better, because they believe they can do it. But I also think that comes because of the squad. There's more legs in it, so they can go to the end. There were times after 60 minutes last season where Liverpool just were cooked, and you just knew, they couldn't get back in the game. Now you've got 7 midfield options. You can ask them to run for 60 and then change them all.
Also young.
And young, fresh.
Not at the back end of their Jordan Henderson career, exactly. James Milner, that they're like
Fabinho's legs are gone. We're now, so for example, we start McAllister. Say for example, I think our best midfield will be McAllister, Gravenberch, Szoboszlai. That's probably the 3. He can ease, if any of them start fading, which McAllister did at Sheffield, well, you just take him off and put Endo on, or you take him off and put Jones on, or you take him off and put Elliott on, or you can put Cody Gakpo on. So Liverpool keep going and going and going. At the weekend, it wasn't working. There was a couple of lads who looked jaded, weren't playing well. The Crystal Palace were exploiting. I think Endo was the one who they really targeted. As soon as he gets the ball, Will Hughes was on him. Mm-hmm. Okay, right, we'll get him off. And we've got options. We'll be able to put Joe Gomez on, and we'll ask him to be a proper right back and provide width, and we'll put Trent Alexander-Arnold. So what Liverpool have got is answers to the questions they're being asked. So even if teams are asking us questions, it might take us 18 minutes to figure it out, but they tend to figure it out. And then with the goal scorers we've got in our team, you back them to finish a lot of the chances. Even Darwin, who's been on and off with it, but it does
back him to at the bar.
Maybe so. He loves the crossbar. There's something like you're going forwards at Anfield. Like Luis Suarez was the same. A year and a half, he just kept it in the post bars. But that's the difference, really, is that we can change. We've got so many good options. You can change things all the time. So we spoke here about Trent Alexander-Arnold. If we want a game where we need somebody to just fly up the wing and put a cross in, and provide width, then we've got that now. We can do that. So that's the encouraging thing, is that I felt last year if Liverpool played their game and were allowed to play it, they would win. They battered Rangers, they battered Manchester United, they battered Leeds, they battered them like 5, 6, 7s against them. But then if they weren't allowed to play that game, I reference Bournemouth away, or I reference tons of games where they went to Brighton and got played off the park, or they went to Wolves. When they weren't allowed to do what they wanted to do, they had nothing left. It was like, what do? We look at the bench and there's nothing. We're bringing kids on, or Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain's going to go and play right. Well, that's not going to work.
Yeah.
Where now you can go, okay, well that's not working. Well, okay, I can put Cody Gakpo in midfield, or I can ask Harvey Elliott to play in the lines, or I can ask Szoboszlai to drop deep and play next to McAllister. So Liverpool have found ways to win in all of these games. Newcastle away, the perfect example, where we're down to 10. And he's got the options off the bench to be able to go, actually, what we're going to do now, we're going to go 4-5, we're going to go 4-4-1. And that one is going to be Darwin Núñez, who will just run his nuts off and chase everything down. And we'll ask Mo Salah to just do a little bit more of a right wing job and stuff. And he was able to do it. 12 months ago, that wouldn't have been, we'd have lost 4-0.
We'll see how far that kind of takes Liverpool with the squad depth and stuff. Brings us nicely to this weekend. Well, I'll ask you to round off this part one with a score prediction. Will it be 7-0 again? We're not sure. What do you think, Steve? What you? I
think we're going to batter them.
more or less than 7.
No less. Okay. I think that's a freak. But I think we'll score at least 4.
Comfortable.
I think we'll score 4.
Yeah.
I think we create that many chances, and I know we might disagree. I think that goalkeeper's a problem, and I think he can easily throw one in.
Keep saying we need this for the weekend. Need a little bit of
It's fine, mate. But listen, I think we'll score at least 3 and probably 4. And my prediction all week's been like 5-1. Okay. But I'm struggling to find the one with no Bruno Fernandes. The Fernandes thing maybe changes things, but I do think we're going to win comfortably.
I think if we play 5 at the back, it'll be tight.
I still think he will do it.
I don't think he will do it. That's a genuine problem. I think that is how you can stop Liverpool. But I don't think he's going to do that. So if they play open, the 5-0, 4-5-0 easy. If they play a closed shop and they sit deep and they make it a horrible game for Liverpool, and they,
what Palace did?
Jeffrey Schlupp was playing super high on the left.
Yeah, and they had Richards DM, but he was dropping into a 5. He made that 5, and they just frustrated us to death.
And it can be done. You can do it. It can be done, and I think that's the big thing. It's like you've got to sometimes.
I think he's too proud. I think he's too proud.
I don't think he. I think he's played 5 handful of times in his managerial career. Even at Utrecht before at Ajax, it was more 4-4-2 diamond, same thing. And it's that mentality of going away from what works, and it is a gamble. But that would really work. Think Rasmus Højlund and Rashford on the counter-attack together against Liverpool's right-hand side of the defence. That's quite advantageous.
You can counter.
There's definitely, Rasmus Højlund is sensational with the ball at his feet. Great dribbler. There is things that they can do. The United could win the game. But I just don't think they will do that. And the freedom of the park for the wide... The issue with if you play a back 4 against this Liverpool team is they'll pin you wide with the 2 wingers. They'll then attack the half space of the 2 central midfielders, attacking midfielder. And then they've got a number 9 as well. So you basically 5-on-4 every time. Hence why the 5 makes sense, because you could go man for man across the line and deal with all those threats. And then you've got that ability to then break in behind. It would work, but will he do it now?
I think
that's it. And that's the problem.
This is an interesting one at Anfield in the fact that if Man United lose this game 4 or 5-0, it's what we've all expected.
Yeah.
And Ten Hag's gone there and not changed anything.
Yeah.
And it's just what we've expected. So I think this is quite a big moment for Ten Hag in his managerial career at Man United, where he can make a statement, perhaps.
No, it has to be. It really does. Because otherwise, what's the point? If you don't change things, what's the point? And I think someone like Graham Potter, whose stock's massively fallen down following the Chelsea job, which we now see as impossible. Mm-hmm. At the moment, it's just impossible. It's so inconsistent. They're more inconsistent than Man United, which is saying something. Like their performance,
they're probably more consistently bad.
But then they've had better they've had higher high points. Yeah. So the City performance was great. Yeah, it was a 4-4 draw. They played really well. It's almost like looking at Graham Potter. Graham Potter, when he went to Anfield, he had quite a good record at the back end.
Yeah,
caused Liverpool a lot of problem. He changed it, play 5 at the back, play 4 at the back. Change the midfielder, diamond, and all this ideas. If Erik ten Hag's not going to go to Anfield and change, then what is the point? Then you may as well look out into the market and go, okay, Graham Potter's available. He will change things. He will try and find an advantage about, a certain thing. I think at times Erik ten Hag's far too stubborn. The Premier League is, as we mentioned, is the best league in the world because of the finances that's involved with it. Best coaches are there, best players are there. You can't play the same way over and over again in those environments. You just can't, because you'll get found out, and that's the situation.
I think we'll move on to some big questions now where we can have a bit of discussion between you two on a few topics. First one is on Liverpool's winless run in terms of winning the league, which lasted 30 years, I believe, between 1990 and 2020. Man United, obviously not going to win the Premier League this season. It's 11 years in counting. Is there any chance that you get to those sort of numbers that Liverpool managed?
There's definitely a chance, because it creeps up on you before you know it. There's a massive Manchester City elephant in the room, and we'll see what happens with them. That maybe
might have a few more league titles each anyway.
Yeah, they might just throw us a few. They might just throw a few extra out to us both. But it's really difficult to see Manchester United going 19 more years without winning the title. But that's more Manchester United, the badge, and Manchester United, the institution of Manchester United. Manchester United, the structure under the Glazers, with this shambles that's happening now, you can absolutely see it. Of course you could. They are miles away from City, and they're miles away from Liverpool. I still think
how much Ratcliffe can change, isn't it?
Exactly, but also it's not like,
it's not too far away.
It's not that far, and also the difference is. But look at Arsenal now. It took them a few. They went a long time, but they put a process in place, and now they might win the Premier League this year. It can be fixed quite comfortably. And Man United, it depends on what the Radcliffe thing does, because if they can get a structure in place, Manchester United are always going to be able to buy the best players and will attract the best players. They've done that now, and they've been rubbish. They can still get great players to come and play for them, because they're Manchester United. They've got that gravitas, and they always will have. But I think unless Radcliffe changes stuff pretty dramatically, I find it difficult to see how, at least in the next 5 to 10, I'll be thinking that's optimistic to win another one, to catch up, to overtake unless Manchester City end up playing League 2 or something. But then, that gap's so big. Like, you've got to be perfect almost. So I don't think they'll go 30 years. I think Man United will probably win another league title before 19 more years' time. But I don't think it's a guaranteed certainty, and that's mad to say. I think Liverpool, Arsenal, and Manchester City would all win at least one in that time frame. One of them's obviously going to do it this year. Apologies, Aston Villa.
Yeah, come on, Villa. What's going on there?
Apologies to Aston Villa if it's them. But I would say, is it 11? No.
If we include 24, it'll be 11.
11, yeah. I could see it getting to 20. Maybe not 30, but I could see it getting to 20.
I think that's then that should be the idea of the club, is focusing on that next point.
Yep.
Like the academy, recruitment, the infrastructure, people that work for the institution, it all needs to change. But Dave Brailsford obviously changed British cycling, and his ideas were 1% improvements every single day. The improvements you can make at Man United are pretty simple. The medical department is a prime example of that. The injuries this season, the overloading players in training, that's like none of the top clubs do that. So those improvements could amass to quite a lot.
Yeah.
Is it going to happen in 3 to 4 years? No. Do United need to look longer term than that? Yeah. Rasmus Højlund now should be the player that they build around. So 20 years old now. So when he hits 27, so 7 years' time should be when they go, right, this is when we want to be super competitive in that level, and we want to grow that way. Like Kobe Mainoo will be a similar age.
He can't be the next Martial.
Absolutely. It just needs to be that idea that there's a plan and a growth, that this is when we're going to do it.
Liverpool did that. Liverpool did. So Jurgen arrived in 2015. They built he couldn't believe that the academy trained at a different place than the first team. So we built a structure, and they built the AXA Stadium, and they opened that during COVID. But the plan was in place for years before. They redeveloped Anfield. Old Trafford's a shambles. It's fallen to bits. It's gone. The medical department, they overhauled everything. These 1% gains. He hired a throw-ins coach. He hired a set play. All those 1% can add up. But it took Jurgen 5 years to do it, and during that time, Manchester City were on the build as well, and that's why it was so difficult. But that's the problem that United have got now, is that City are already there. When Liverpool were doing it, it was a bit of Chelsea, but Chelsea are so inconsistent. It was just Chelsea was so up and down. They're a bananas club. City hadn't got to where they got to, and by the time Liverpool won it, City had, but they just got there. Now since that, look what they've become. They've become treble winners, and they've got even better team and even better players, and they're investing more and more. So I think overcoming Manchester City, Liverpool could win the league this year once, but Arsenal could. But Manchester City as an institution right now is so far advanced of what Man United are, because they've invested, they've got the training ground, they've got the stadium.
It's even bigger than that. I think the big thing, like the elephant in the room in a sense of, is the City group. Yeah.
It's
not one club.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, but look what they've done. 20
clubs all around the world, however many it is. Girona in La Liga beat Barcelona this weekend. They're a City club. They have City players.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the whole idea, is you've got this massive institution that you own. You can loan players wherever you want within this sphere, blah, 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 blah. It's not been blocked by FIFA, not been blocked by UEFA. That is a humongous competitive advantage. It's what they've got over Liverpool, I'd say, is that Liverpool don't have a structure in place like that. Manchester United have the start of that with Nice, with Lausanne, and there's a team in Ivory Coast that Ineos own. That's the start of this. And that would improve things. It would give you an amazing platform to play players. And I don't massively like that. Obviously, Nice fans would probably be upset that they're not the number one club or whatever. But with the City group, it's just set in stone that City are the top club. And to compete with that as an infrastructure and unit from a financial perspective as well, and the player development perspective, it's going to be really tough. And I think that's why you mentioned that the longevity of how far they're going to win for a long time. And I think it will only be teams that come up and go, one team is going to win it for this year because they are.
Yeah, I think City are obviously number one at the moment, and probably will be for the next decade, we can predict. But we're joined by two of the most successful clubs in England here, number 1 and 2. How important for both of you is having the most league titles in England in terms of 20 times for Man United, Liverpool 19? So you've shared it obviously throughout history. How important, Dave, is it for you to hold that?
It's obviously big. It's a big thing, and it's part of the fan fun in a sense. It's a fun thing to joke about in a really historic rivalry. But the respect for Liverpool's always been there. Liverpool have always been around there. Having the second most titles in the Premier League is big. Or in English football is massive, humongous achievement. But it is good. I think the big thing is remembering when you're at the top to enjoy it. I remember celebrating all the United titles that have been in my lifetime. Really celebrating them, really enjoying it, really enjoying that time. And that's kind of the cyclical nature of football in a sense, is when you're on the top, just make sure you enjoy it. And I still feel fondly about that. Yeah, if Liverpool get to 20 titles, yeah, it'll be a bit rubbish. And maybe 21, yeah, it'll be really rubbish. But then we'd have to just get Ferguson back, and then that would cause you all problems, and then we go and win the league again.
What it can do as well, it's a double-edged sword, and I think I kind of touched upon this earlier, is that history's great, but it can also burden you down a lot. And that the first day Jurgen Klopp come in, he said Liverpool should be proud of the history, but too many of these players in this club are wearing it like a backpack. That's what it's weighing everyone down. The weight of expectation, the weight of why aren't you? We've won 20 of these. Why can't you win the 21st? Or we've won 18. Why has no one been able to win the 19th one? So it can be both. But listen, I think it's more realistic that Liverpool get to 21 before Manchester United do it. Right now, I could see Liverpool winning 2 of the next 5, and I struggle to see Man United winning 1. And we would absolutely make the most of it. Right, so Man United came up, I remember the banner when they won it, it was always a comeback when you've won 18, Liverpool, instead of Man United came back, well, we've got 19, here we are. Brilliant, that's what it should be. I think that's fantastic.
Not 19 forever though.
No, that's what I'm saying. So you've got to enjoy those kind of things. Yeah. I think both of us would say we're both proud of the history of our football clubs. Absolutely. Manchester City are currently making their history, and that's the difference, is that history is great, but you've got to keep adding to your history. So in the modern era, Liverpool have added every trophy pretty much under Klopp, added to it. Man United would actually, it depends when you cut it off, because they're not that far away from winning everything. When Champions League win was less than
2008.
Yeah, so not 15 years. Man United won every trophy. So when we look back on this, and some other people look back on it, they go, that was actually a quite good period for trophies. But you've got to keep adding to them, and you've got to keep adding to them. And I think at the moment, and it kind of touches back what we spoke on before, that burden of you're Man United, we've won 20 trophies, we've won Europe, we've won everything.
That's what they need to change.
Yeah, you need to get rid of that.
The change, Man United in history, what do? Attacking football, young players. That's what they do. That is Busby, Ferguson, that is the idea. They need to get back to that. United should have the best academy in England. There should be a non-negotiable. They should spend enough money on their academy. They make record profits and revenue and blah, blah, blah.
The best stadium.
And the big problem is that they've been so hampered by the Glazers taking cash out. They're not been able to do any of that, which is insane because that should be Manchester United. Yeah. And United need to go away from being like, from a objective perspective as an institution, it should be away from when we're winning the next Premier League title to how do we get back to integrating young players from the academy and playing attacking football, and that should be the fundamentals of the football club, and that's why it's been so
trophies almost take care of themselves.
But then we don't go to football. We don't go to watch 50 odd games of football in a year just for the trophy being lifted. We watch 58 games of football, which is 90-minute matches, to enjoy ourselves, to see goals, to see your combinations, players doing crazy things, and that's what it is, and that's what it should be. And then the trophies are on top. Yep. First and foremost, youth development, attacking football, the trophies will come because of what United have from a resource perspective. And that has been the concern with it recently. Of always, we're buying Rafael Varane because we want to compete for the title now, buying Cristiano Ronaldo because we want to compete for the title now. They really killed Ole Gunnar Solskjaer with those two signings. They were stupid signings, so stupid, because they had that fixation on trophies. Yeah. It just doesn't matter.
I think there's been special players on both teams well, maybe not Man United in recent years, but mainly Liverpool. It brings us to the next question. Is Mo Salah the greatest winger in Premier League history? Winger/wide forward, I think. Yeah,
he's got 150 Premier League goals, so that's the main. If you ask Mo Salah to present his arguments, he just walk down and go, "There's 150 reasons why I am the best." If you look at everyone who's above him in the Premier League top scorers list now, it's all strikers and then Frank Lampard. So yes, for me, I think he is. I think it's because of the consistency of the level. I think other players might have had a better season or two than him. I think potentially, although Mo Salah scored 32 goals in a season once, so that could be difficult to argue.
Was that level with Ronaldo's Golden Boot when he did it? Yeah. 32 as well, yeah.
But Salah broke Shearer's record, and then Haaland broke his record last year in the 38 games. Like, Hazard's had fantastic seasons, and Ronaldo is obviously the one as well. But I think for consistency, it's hard to argue it. There are other ones. If you go back,
are we saying that Ryan Giggs as
well? That's what I'm saying. The role of a winger's changed dramatically, and that's that you have to play that. Ryan Giggs would never be expected to score 30 goals. He would be expected to provide Ruud van Nistelrooy and Andy Cole and Dwight York with the goals. That's the difference, I think. But I would say Mo Salah is, because I think scoring the goals is the hardest part and the part that you've got to do. And people sometimes say to me, well, he's not a winger, he's a striker. I was like, well, he does play on the wing. Like, he hugs that touchline. That's what his skill set is. He can start there and find a way to be there and scoring a goal. So I do think he's the best right winger in the history of the league.
So I think that maybe is the problem within itself, is that the change in players, the change in profile and what you ask. Because you'd say Ryan Giggs from a consistency perspective is better than Mohamed Salah because he did it for longer. He won more trophies, was a part of a better team, went through such a transition in terms of him as a footballer as well and growth. And then if you're looking at it from a one season perspective, Salah's never won the Ballon d'Or, and that would be the only difference between him and Ronaldo. Salah's probably been more consistent from a goal scoring perspective in the Premier League than Ronaldo, because Ronaldo left. But that season in 2008 was just phenomenal. Yeah. Like, the highness of that level was unbelievable. There's this crazy stat that in the Champions League final, I think Ronaldo had the second most touches of any United player. So the amount of possession that he had and what he created, and it wasn't just the goal scoring that Ronaldo became a goal scorer, a pure goal scorer at Real Madrid for me. He changed it, his game changed, but he was creative, he was aggressive, he'd score goals, he would do everything. I think I've not seen that level of a player, and I think of course he's the same amount of goals as Salah in a single season. No, it was 31, 32 actually.
Salah beat him, yeah.
Yeah, Salah beat him by one goal. But outside of like just that goal stat, Ronaldo was absolutely unplayable, and that's why I would put him ahead just from in terms of the best winger. Because it's difficult, because if consistency, as I mentioned before, it's more that kind of maybe longevity. But I'm not saying Salah's a bad player. And Salah has been unbelievable. The way that he's grown and the impact he's had at Liverpool has been, it's defined a generation. And 200 goals in all comps, 150 in the Premier League is nothing to be sniffed at. I think Ronaldo's that one season, the level was just a little bit higher.
Because it's the season of goodwill, let's end on a high with our final question. It's Christmas. So if you had to pick one feature from the other club, and I've defined this as like atmosphere, stadium, manager, players, history, trophies, and swap it with your own, which would you pick?
Steve's going to pick the trophies, right? The 20 Premier League titles.
You can pick the European Cups if you want.
Yeah, that's the give us one of those league titles back. Yeah, I'm trying to think right now. It would be hard.
You mean you don't want to play at Old Trafford every week?
Mate, it's a shed. It really is. It's from a neutral point of view, which I'm not. It's a shame because it's mad how their ground fall.
It's embarrassing.
It's leaking and the toilets flood and you can't get to it. It's crazy. Give me another league title. I'll take one of those and we'll have 20 and 19. But I was trying to think the other day. If you said to me like any players, I'd be like, well, they wouldn't get in the team, but is there anyone you'd have on your bench? Maybe. Like, I think Højlund could be good eventually. I think Jurgen would love him if we could get him. But yeah, it's difficult, isn't it, at this very moment to take like any of that kind of stuff. But in terms of historic stuff, yeah, if you could give me a couple more of those league titles, or in fact, no. Give me. I'm trying to think which one. The Makeda one. When was that?
That was the was it? 10-11?
Yeah, I'll have that one back. We should have won that league.
No, you beat us 4-1 at Old Trafford and then Kiko Makeda.
8-9, 8-9 wasn't
that was generally one of my favourite moments in the entirety of this world with my mum at Old Trafford. We were, again, it was like Liverpool in a sense, god-awful. Makeda comes on, that turn just kick-starts everything good. Now, I think the simple one's Jurgen Klopp. I think that's the thing. Jurgen Klopp is a Liverpool and Manchester United manager. He just is. He has the allure, he has the character, he has the personality, he has the style as well. Like, he's got everything that you'd want. And that, with Klopp, for example, at the start, how Liverpool were competitive in the Champions League before the league would obviously be helpful for Manchester United. But yeah, it's just, it's a it's a top level coach. And it'd be the same for City, it'd be Guardiola. Because that right now, they're the two best in the world by a comfortable mile. The gap's getting closed, yeah, but we've got to remember what these two managers have done over the last 10 years.
Where do you think Klopp would take this United squad this season?
They'd have won the league.
This United squad?
Not this year, no. But if he'd went to United in 2015...
Yeah, they would have won the league.
United would have won
they would have won the Champions League as well, I think. Yeah. And they would have had a much better squad. But...
he's really good at? He's good at managing up as well.
Yeah.
And he's not burdened by the history. Like, he's had a go at us. Stop talking about that. He's up, because he's... What I've always said about Liverpool managers, we idolise our managers, same as Man United. They're put on a pedestal and that sometimes means you can be shot at as well. But what Jurgen's quite good at doing is like saying, okay, I'm here, but I don't need to be here. If Jurgen Klopp left tomorrow, his phone would be ringing off the hook, and that's so he's not doing things to appease who's above him, because he'll do what he wants, because he knows, well, if he he's open to negotiate, but he's also not burdened by I need this job. Whereas sometimes you can get, like, for example, Solskjaer would just do as he's told, because he wants, I'm the Man United manager, this is as good as I want. I will get given X player, I'll get given Cristiano Ronaldo, so Manchester City don't take him. There's no way in a million years if Liverpool would have come to Jurgen Klopp and went, there's Cristiano Ronaldo, age 35, you're having him. He'd have went, get out of my office. Not a chance. Because he's not bigger than Liverpool, because no one's bigger than Liverpool, but he's got the gravitas in the game where he knows he'll be fine. Where's Ole Solskjaer now? You know what I mean? If Klopp went to Man United and they were trying to drop all these idiotic ideas on him, they went, no, I'm not having it. Because if you can't get rid of me, but I'll just go and manage Bayern Munich, or go manage Real Madrid, or I'll go and manage somebody else. I'll take the Germany job tomorrow. Yeah. Whereas that's what I love about Jurgen. He's unapologetically himself. And I think sometimes I do wonder if Man United managers have been that strong with what's above them. You mentioned before, if there's no way, what is Cristiano Ronaldo doing back at Man United? Like, how has this been allowed to happen? And that the manager opened them with welcome arms and put him up front every game. And listen, he scored a few goals. He scored goals, but it was completely unsustainable.
Yeah.
So Dave's right. If you'd have dropped Jurgen Klopp in 2015, Man United would be where Liverpool are now. 100%.
I think one of the interesting...
Maybe more, because they've probably got more resources.
They've got that, but then it's still, like, the question would be Edwards.
Klopp would have got rid. He'd have got rid of him. He wouldn't have had him.
But like that would be the problem at Manchester. I mean, I like Edwards in terms of the director of football job, because I think that helped Klopp at the start of his tenure.
What I'm saying is, he either got rid of Ed Woodward and brought
Ed Woodward should be binned, but Edwards coming into that role would have been what United needed to do. I think the other thing that Klopp's done really well, that Ferguson did quite well, was like cycle through assistants, and it changed things. Like, you know, McLaren for Fergie 99, you know, Carlos Queiroz in 2008. Klopp's got it same with Pep Lijnders, how he's kind of like appeared, and now this is more maybe a Pep Lijnders team than actually a Jurgen Klopp team, but he's happy to allow other people to do it. And that is the class, the quality, that you understand that there could be an idea that's not your idea, that might be a really good idea that we need to push back on and go for, that would fit at Manchester United. And I suppose that's kind of...
You know, if Klopp is in charge now of Man United, like this team he's got now, I think they would be maybe where... Not. I don't think they're good enough to be... I think they're better. They could be better than Aston Villa. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They potentially... I think I think he'd find a way to make it work. Like you mentioned before, I think he'd probably find a way... Afton wouldn't be on the team for a start. Like, there's just no way Maguire would be playing. And this isn't me digging Harry Maguire, but he can't play the football like Jurgen wants him to play. So he'd find a kid. He'd go and find somebody who can hold a high line and things. So... I don't think he'd have them top of the league right now, but I think they would be in a better position, because I think he probably would have been a bit more pragmatic than he's been, than Ten Hag's been.
I think the prospect of Jurgen Klopp at Old Trafford is a good way to end this podcast. So thanks very much for joining me, StatmanDave and Steve from Redmen TV. I hope the game goes well for you both this weekend. Obviously it can't. Thanks very much for joining us on this episode of the Sportsman Untitled, and we'll see you next time.